Good morning.
Good morning, Madam Chair. Good morning to all of the honorable members of council, my esteemed colleagues, and everyone who's tuning in today. My name is Violetta Nikolskaya. My pronouns are she, her, and I am the Director of Inclusion and Engagement at YWCA Hamilton. Our staff at all levels in every department, including myself, our service users, we all rely on the public transportation in Hamilton, and we trust our HSR. And I stand before you today in support of the Keep Transit Public Coalition of Hamilton, which is a collective voice that echoes the concerns of our community and labor groups. The message is very clear, both in the report and was amplified this morning. We want to press upon this subcommittee the significance of keeping transit operations, the full operations, as well as maintenance, public and in the trusted, capable hands of the HSR. As this subcommittee moves forward in its discussion and its work, it's imperative to also not forget the equity, diversity, and inclusion framework that this council has committed to, and the crucial role that that also plays in shaping the transportation system that meets the unique needs of women and gender diverse individuals, as well as in the decisions that you make around this table. An EDI framework would raise several major concerns about the privatization of public assets, which includes the maintenance of our transit system. The Keep Transit Public Coalition has been tirelessly advocating, reflecting the desires of our community, urging all of us to preserve the essence of public transit, which is to keep it public, a system that serves the people it is meant to benefit. Over the last 6 years, over the discussion of the LRT, their campaigns have fought loudly to defend high-quality public transportation in the interest of all Hamiltonians, expose the unprecedented degree of private involvement and control in public services and assets across the province, and to challenge and have us all think critically about public-private partnerships where corporate profits supersede public benefit and public safety. And so as we plan for the future of the Hamilton Light Rail project, one crucial aspect that demands our attention is the public input in operations and maintenance. When transit remains public in the hands of HSR and in this city, there's space and interest in genuine connection and community engagement. We can listen to the diverse voices that make up our city, ensuring that our transportation system addresses their specific needs and concerns. Women and gender diverse peoples are often disproportionately impacted by transportation choices. Public transit is our lifeline. It's our lifeline connecting us to opportunities, to education, to public services, to essential services. When the responsibility is as high as it is for there to be equitable, responsive transportation for the needs of women and gender diverse people, it's imperative that it be operated and maintained at the highest level possible and incorporate public input. Our unique perspectives can shape the design and the operation of transit to prioritize safety, stop locations, frequency, affordability, and more. Public transit, when designed with an equity lens and incorporating EDI, can be more responsive to the needs as they arise. By maintaining public control over transit operations and maintenance, we foster a city that is attentive to the evolving needs of its residents. We have the flexibility to implement changes swiftly, respond to the concerns of marginalized communities, and enhance the overall transit experiences. From what I heard from other delegations before me, that doesn't seem to have been the case in other cities in which that has not been the case, where privatization has taken hold, and unfortunately there have been pretty colossal failures. This responsiveness leads to a more inclusive and empowering city for all. Let us remember that public transit systems are not just about moving people from point A to point B. They really are about weaving together the threads of our community, fostering a sense of belonging, and creating opportunities for all residents. We pave the way for a more inclusive, accessible, and equitable city when we can all be proud to call our transit system our own, a public asset in our domain. As a subcommittee, you hold the power to shape the future of Hamilton's transit system, not only today, but in perpetuity, as we heard from other delegates. So let it be a future that uplifts, empowers, and serves the diverse tapestry of our city. Together, let us all keep transit public and work hand in hand to create a transportation network that is not just efficient, but also compassionate and responsive to the needs of all. Thank you so much for your attention to this matter.
Thank you, Delegate Nikolskaya. Are there any questions of the delegate? Yes. I will recognize Member Andrus, please.
Thank you, Chair. Through you to the delegates. I'm wondering if you can tell us a little bit about the efforts underway between the HSR and your organization around increasing the number of women working in the transit sector.
Through you, Chair. The HSR has been incredibly communicative with YWCA Hamilton, and I imagine other nonprofits that engage with community members on a daily basis. We have conversations, even outside of social procurement, but just generally a compassionate conversation about how do we engage our service users. We have service users who reside in our residential programs, in our residences, as well as individuals who are in our training and employment programs. The HSR will connect with us and ask us, how do we ensure that they have all of the means possible so that we can employ them? Because we trust HSR to have high quality unionized positions that make anyone to work there proud. And so we communicate back what that educational barrier might be, what those barriers might exist generally, systemically. And what we've heard from the HSR is a genuine commitment to meet our service users where they are at for not only employability, but just the confidence to be able to step forward in this domain. That's an excellent thing. It's something that is really uplifting for us. It's obviously a great priority for HSR, but I'm concerned that in a world in which an element as big as maintenance, where maintenance has so many of these crucial positions, is privatized, that conversation wouldn't happen at all. We know that systemically that is not a priority for profit-driven companies. They are there to employ oftentimes precarious, low-waged positions or temp positions in order to cover those tasks. In general, from an EDI lens, but also from the position of YWCA Hamilton, that's detrimental. We're not here to advocate for low-paying, precarious work. We're here to ensure that all work is work that individuals can have a meaningful livelihood to support themselves and their families. That's especially crucial for women, for newcomers, and gender-diverse persons for whom these positions might prey upon the very most. So I would be very remiss. I'd be very, very disappointed to see those conversations with HSR taper off if a large amount of maintenance positions through our busiest corridor is then privatized. So I'm really grateful to HSR for all the conversations we've had so far. And I hope through you, Chair, that has answered the question.
Thank you.
Thank you. Recognize Councillor Nan.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Delegate Nikolskaya, for your delegation this morning. If I could, I just wanted to dig down a little bit. You had mentioned that women and gender diverse folks are impacted, as with other equity-seeking populations or equity-deserving populations, as it relates to transit service system planning. And you referenced specifically the inflexibility to respond to needs as they arise. Can you unpack that a little bit more?
Absolutely. And through you, Chair, thank you so much for that question. This also connects back to the conversations we've had with HSR. HSR trusts us as well as a partner and advisor in conversations about equity, diversity, and inclusion, and have engaged us in conversations about our transit system. While that most certainly relates to full operations, and this is, again, part of the conversation you folks are having today, it relates to generally full operations and maintenance. What does our transit system look like on a daily basis for the folks who utilize them? And we've provided feedback about things that are related to maintenance and operations that, if implemented, could ensure for better accessible and fluid transportation of all of our residents and citizens in Hamilton. When I think about the privatization of a system like maintenance, and to hear from the other delegates about how little feedback then goes to these companies that subcontract onward, and just how convoluted that sounds, it appears to me, and I know that this is from both evidence and obviously from anecdotes in other cities, that input, that feedback is either not generated at all from the public, that conversation is just completely cut off, but if it is held, even at a shallow level, it's not incorporated, especially if it doesn't have to do with profits for that particular entity. That's a huge concern for me. That means the conversations we're having and would be having about the busiest corridor in our community would be closed off. When I hear that 13.4% of this year wasn't accessible in Ottawa for those who use that transportation system, that's incredibly terrifying to me, and terrifying on behalf of the service users who would depend on that in our community. We simply can't afford to have that level of disruption or lack of input in our community. We rely on HSR, and we need to see it in the public domain.
Thank you for that. So if I can, just a summary point, really critical to have that direct line input not only recognized as being essential for us to make service optimization changes as needed as a service provider, but in turn to have that input be directly incorporated, that relationship or that clarity or pathway of that expectation of public input then shaping service changes is critically essential, and that from operational perspective you think is necessary for this committee and council to ensure is integrated.
Through you, Chair, just very quickly, right now is an exemplification of that. I stand before you providing my input, providing that feedback, and I worry about a day in which I attempt to do so, and the response is sort of rhetorical, and I'm so sorry, that's actually not in the domain of what we operate over. We don't, we don't manage over maintenance. Actually, that is subcontracted to another company, good luck with your ability to be heard by them. I rue the day that happens, and I look forward to continuing these conversations in the public domain where there's accessibility, accountability, and transparency.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Delegate Nikolskaya. I don't see any other speakers on the docket, so thank you for your attendance this morning.